2020 was the year of many things, but also the year of the rat. I also unrelated and coincidentally got amazing pet rats several months ago. And while the year of the rat is ending, I wanted to share the story of my rats thus far. Why did I get rats? Well, I moved to Kyrgyzstan and was ready for a new type of pet ownership. YouTube research revealed that rats are intelligent, social, fun, and cuddly. Also, back at my previous school, one of my favorite, weirdest, and most inspiring student I taught, he owned rats, and he was a strange rat boy. Was he a strange rat boy because he had rats? Or did he get rats because he was a strange rat boy? I was going to get closer to figuring it out. Shout out to John. Anyways, I started searching for rats as soon as I got to Kyrgyzstan, and eventually found myself a rat dealer on Lalafo, which is the Kyrgyz equivalent of Craigslist. My rat dealer is an 18-year-old Russian guy who breeds rats, like motorcycles, and wants to hang out with me to practice his English. So 2 weeks after landing in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, I bought the biggest cage I could find, which was still kind of small, and spent many hours making their dwelling look nice. Ironically, more time than I had ever spent making my own apartment look nice. 2 days later, my rat dealer said he would drop them off at night, but well into the night he informed me that he couldn't come. Me being anxious to get these rats, and tired of putting it off, went to my rat dealer at around midnight to pick up these rats, and I taxied home with two baby rat sisters who were about 3 months old at the time. I put them in their cage, where they spent several days getting used to their new environment. I didn't get any decent pictures until day 3, when they finally felt comfortable approaching me for a snack. At this point, I still couldn't tell them apart, so I couldn't even give them names. Until my dad noticed that one had ears shaped like a butterfly. So I named one of them Butterfly and the other one not Butterfly. I'm kidding. I named the other one Danny, based on Rat Boy's suggestion. Within a week, they were comfortable hanging out on my lap and eating food. And in 2 weeks, they were comfortable hanging out in my hand and in my pocket. During these 2 weeks, I began to learn their personalities. Danny was a bit more aggressive, and Butterfly was more skittish. And Danny was eating way more than Butterfly and starting to get fatter than Butterfly. I also bought them a second cage, and I connected them with some makeshift tubes. After 2 weeks, I left the rats plenty of food and water, and I went for a weekend trip to the lake with friends. I was very worried about my rats the entire time. After almost 2 days away, I came home, and I saw that Butterfly had escaped the cage, but was obediently sitting outside of the cage looking back at me. While putting Butterfly back, I went to look for Danny and noticed her in another corner of the cage. I also noticed that Butterfly escaped because the paper row connecting the cages were all chewed up. And not only that, everything else in the cage that could be torn and chewed up was torn and chewed up. As I was trying to figure out what was going on, I heard some tiny squeaks. Then I heard a chorus of more tiny squeaks. Yes, I lifted up the cardboard house, and in the nest of the torn up papers and napkins, I found 9 pink babies. Apparently, Danny wasn't fat, and she was overeating because she was pregnant, which then made me feel bad for purposely trying to deny her food previously. Rats are pregnant for about 3 weeks, which meant she got pregnant before I got her. And suddenly I had 11 babies. I told my rat dealer that I was sold a faulty rat and cannot care for 11 rats. He was amused and surprised, as he claims he keeps his females and males separate, but apparently not separate enough. So the next evening, my rat dealer came to take home the babies and Danny so the babies could continue nursing with mom. I didn't want Butterfly to be alone, as rats are social creatures. And at this point, I was feeling confident in caring for rats, so I asked my rat dealer to bring me two new rats, which I believe were still sisters of Danny and Butterfly. And probably due to recognizing their sister's scent, Butterfly was quick to welcome them, and the two new rats made themselves at home, which brought my rat total to 3. I was able to distinguish the two new rats apart as one had more white on her tail than her sister. I named them after two foods I liked,
What are you doing?
jelly bean and butterfly,
What are you doing?
which is also an ingredient in Ratatouille, which is one of my favorite Pixar movies. These 3 rats were doing wonderful. Cut to 2 weeks later, when I began to notice that Cucumber was getting round. I was worried.
Oh my god, look how fat you are.
Or are you just pregnant? Yes. A week later, she began preemptively tearing up everything to build a nest, and she gave birth during the day while I was at work. Another 9 babies, 4 boys and 5 girls, bringing the total to 12 rats. This time around, despite my many insistences, I had trouble getting my rat dealer to come. There would be a variety of excuses every time, though the most reasonable being that his current rat cages were at capacity. He showed me pictures, and he was absolutely right. So during this time, I had to learn to be a good rat parent. For the first 2 weeks, they nursed off their mother, and eventually they transitioned to real food like cheese and yogurt, and eventually their dried food mix. By the end of the third week, I was getting worried because around week 4 is when rats begin to mature and could potentially start breeding with each other. And the last thing I needed was more rats. So I went to buy a separate cage for the 4 boys. At this point, I was moving to another apartment, and what finally got my rat dealers to come and pick up these babies was telling him that I needed them out before I moved, and also that I would give him a new cage that I bought to help with his capacity problem. By the way, how much do rats cost in Kyrgyzstan? 100 soms each, which is about $1.21 US. But actually, they cost way, way more. Not only the food and the cages, my rats had chewed 2 holes through my couch. And when I moved apartments, I needed to pay the landlord for the damages. It was a quote unquote nice couch, and after some fighting, I paid way more than I wanted to. But on the flip side, they probably felt like I paid way less than they wanted to. Anyways, when my rat dealer came to pick up the babies, I didn't want him to bring me any new rats, as I was starting to get suspicious at all the knocked up rats he was giving me. He picked up the babies, and this time he didn't have to take mom too, because the babies were done nursing. However, I kept one baby, my favorite looking one. Besides the fact she had a beautiful white color, she had a lightning bolt on her forehead. I named him Wizard because, "You're a hairy wizard." I now call her Wiz for short, as nicknamed by my friend Andrew. Throughout this entire time, I scouted out as many pet stores as I could find to find the one that sold rat food, but also to keep my eyes out for a bigger cage, as my rats were getting bigger, and the 2 cages that I smushed together to make a mega cage was still too small. I finally found a taller one. I took the original mega cage and stacked them on top of each other and connected that to the new cage to make a cage composed of 3 smaller cages. 4 months after receiving these 2 original rats, I now have 4 total: Butterfly, Cucumber, Jellybean, and Wiz. Wiz is losing her darker color and turning gray, and they are all growing in size. Butterfly is still skittish. My new apartment is great because it is a lot smaller and I was able to rat proof it so that I can let them out at least twice a day for outside exploration time. Everybody that I know here in Kyrgyzstan knows that I have rats because I purposely or accidentally keep bringing it up. I'm already strange, and me owning rats just adds to that image. Moral of the story: Rat Boy has rats because the rats made him Rat Boy. Also, 2021 is the year of the cow, so I'm owning a few cows now.